Hello, I'm Svitek, 360 Creative Coach, and welcome to my vlog, where it's my mission and simultaneous pleasure to highlight my creative journey in hopes of inspiring you, giving you specific takeaways, all in the hopes that your creative journey might be a little bit easier than mine. Now, before I get into things, I would like to take the opportunity to invite you to subscribe if you haven't already. That way you get all the various lessons and episodes and things of that nature that I put out. Thank you if you just did, and thank you if you already were. It truly means a lot to me, so I hope it does to you. So, the big thing of last week was the premiere of my proof of concept short film. And that is now complete, that is now out in the universe, it is now done. So if you would like to watch just the standalone proof of concept, that is on my various social media. I have linked to it down below. You can just watch it, it's about 4 minutes. You can check that out. Now, if you're curious to see all the ins and outs and really hear from myself, Candace Cruz, who is the main actress in it, as well as the other cast and crew, and then watch the premiere live event. You know, we did a whole Q&A afterwards, and it was a lot of fun and I think really informative for the people that watched. And so that's available as well. And I've linked to that in the description as well, so you can get to it. But, you know, the sort of behind the scenes, the lead up of it, really, that was the primary focus, you know, and it's kind of interesting enough, in the making of Lord of the Rings, right, with Peter Jackson, when he's talking about the Return of the King, one of the things that he says is, you know, we knew our deadline was approaching, and, you know, people think that, he kind of joked, he said, you know, people think I wasn't going to make the deadline. It's like, of course I'm going to make the deadline. You know, you got to make the deadline, but that, you know, it doesn't mean you have to finish in advance. You know, you just have to meet the deadline. And I think that encapsulated a lot of last week. You know, the visual effects were sort of done, and then on Monday we were really, you know, honing the color correction. Wednesday, you know, sound was coming in, and I made some last minute changes that, you know, by Wednesday night were addressed by Edgar. And even though it sounds like, oh, okay, well, you know, for a 4-minute film, you know, you got everything in by Wednesday. Yeah, but then I have to not only export it, and part of that is, right, so I have to apply the animation process to it, which is a separate thing. So, you know, a lot of this really came down to the wire, and like Friday, you know, we were kind of all packaging it together. Even some of, you know, we knew we wanted some footage of the behind the scenes, so like, you know, for the premiere. So even like Saturday morning, I'm sending Jonathan videos and he's encoding them so that way they're good to go for the actual premiere. So yeah, it's just kind of funny, you know, it was right up until the wire of like, okay, let's do it, you know. And by the way, huge shout out to Jonathan Moulton for, you know, as the week was kind of going by, the whole plan for the premiere event was I'll just stream it from Zoom to YouTube and just kind of let it be. And, you know, then I was like thinking, well, this, you know, I want to show some clip, and this is going to kind of be, you know, still a good amount of work on me, especially if I'm the one that has to be answering the majority of the questions and so forth. So I was like, hey, Jonathan, would you want to, you know, stream this? And, you know, what a godsend that idea was for me, because he did, you know, we still did it through Zoom, but, you know, he connected us, we meaning Alina, Candace, and myself, and Jonathan, we were on the Zoom, but then he took that footage and filtered it through the OBS system, which is a free open source broadcast, you know, program. And he was able to add lower thirds and really make all these cuts and so forth, and, you know, just do a far better job than just streaming it directly through Zoom. And also he, you know, was responsible for that. So that was really cool for me because I didn't have to really deal with that. And he did a fantastic job. So huge shout out to him. And yeah, we just, by that decision alone and him agreeing to do it, I think we really elevated the production value, and I think people had a blast at the premiere. but yeah, it was just kind of, it was this mad dash to get all of that done. And, even kind of last minute, I had made a decision that we needed some sort of prologue for the short film because it was never going to be a standalone. And then, and it just came to like, rather than have this like text over black, let me, do something with it. And so, there was this idea, let me add just some voiceover to it. And I was like, just having voiceover and sound design, like that works. But, what if we added like a clash of visual stuff to it? And so like, it's very faint in there. And when you watch it, so a lot of stuff came together last minute in a beautiful way. And like I said, I mean, for the whole journey, you can really watch the Q&A to kind of get a lot of it. Some of the stuff I've shared, some of it I haven't, but certainly it was a new experience for me to hear Candace talk about it because, one of the things I mentioned as we were also doing the Q&A live, her and I, we've interacted for a long time at this point, talking about the character and the setups and so forth, but I'd never heard her experience of the process, and to hear her talk about it in such a way that she actually enjoyed it and so forth really meant a lot, and it was cool. And it's interesting, people now, even some people who weren't able to see the premiere live, they're finally catching up and kind of seeing it and texting me like, how fantastic it is, and that's great to see. And obviously they're my friends, so there's going to be some bias there. But nonetheless, it's kind of very interesting. It doesn't really hit, right? In that sense, like they're like, you should take a moment to appreciate it. And I was like, well, that was the premiere. But nonetheless, I'm still trying to have those moments of reflection and be like, wow, because my whole thing was, let me make this the best that it can be from my point of view. Will people like it? I have no clue, but I'm just going to put my best foot forward. And the fact that people, at least in my life that I know, are receiving it well, that's really cool. And so there's people who have called me crying. They're like, this is so wonderful, and the fact that you pulled it off, it's so inspirational. And I'm like, damn, I didn't know it was going to bring tears to you, but like, awesome, that's really cool. I mean, that's why you make this stuff. And for me, it's you're just pounding the pavement every single day and just trying to move this thing forward. And as I joked, especially with the live with the virtual aspect of it, right? You do this premiere and then boom, you're kind of done and you got to go walk the dog and pick up their poop. So, but nonetheless, it was a fun event, and it was really cool to kind of be on the behind the scenes of a virtual event like this. We're all, I'm watching Candace and Alina during their portion and so forth, and kind of just having a front row. Yeah, it's just it's a like basically what I'm hinting at is you watch these award shows, right? Whether the Golden Globes, the SAGs, and so forth, Grammys to a certain extent, and you have the people that are on Zoom and so forth, and they're kind of doing it that way. And obviously that was us. And it's such a unique experience when you're like the person that's, actually a part of the Zoom, right? This is my first time like really doing that. Not obviously I've done Zooms, but like to have it be live streamed for other people, and like, you're kind of like in this like Zoom waiting room and for portions of it. Yeah, it's very fascinating. Very, very interesting experience. The thing that I didn't talk about as part of the Q&A that I felt was worthwhile was this idea to read books, meaning fiction. A lot of people that I know are really getting back into books, and that's great, but they're reading a lot of self-help books. And that's all well and good, and I think, we all should read nonfiction, yes. But, it's okay to allow yourself to read just for the pleasure of it. And that's where I think fiction comes in, because, with nonfiction, it seems like, there must be something gained by reading this, for my development, my business prowess, whatever the case may be. Whereas with fiction, you just read it just for the enjoyment of it, right? And, as much as I love film and things like that, I think a lot of the stuff that I'm thinking about and I'm creating, is fueled definitely by a lot of the fiction that I write, as much as it is by the stuff that I've seen in the past, and yeah, I'm on this like mission of really encouraging people to read fiction, because I think it's just so undervalued, and there's so much, the people that do read fiction, they know like how much good fiction there is. So yeah, definitely check out some wonderful books. Currently I'm reading Snow Crash by Neil Stephenson. It's a fantastic, hilarious book that I absolutely love. I'm just a little bit away from completing it. The other thing, that I didn't talk about was I had from the library, right? The library is free to everyone. And so, as part of this, the process of making this movie, I took out a lot of books about the early days of filmmaking and just practical in-camera tricks. Because people kind of look at some of the stuff that I did and managed to do, and they're like, wow, that's so brilliant. And it's like, well, all the answers are there if you just kind of research them, right? And so, especially with old school camera tricks, like a lot of the stuff that we do, in After Effects and so forth, has its roots even back to like the 1920s in terms of how people made certain effects, but they've just been escalated and computerized. And so if you can kind of understand those early methods, you can then start to apply them in, more modern ways, and perhaps in, distinct ways. And so that was a big thing that helped me, and, why I have the confidence to do what I did with the proof of concept that I created. So yeah, that was a big component to it. And as far as, I joke with all my friends now, now that was the weekend. We had a great time, a lot of great reception. People are really enjoying the film, and they continue to, right? Because like I said, not everyone got a chance to see it then and there. But for me, right, now it's Monday, it's back to business. And as I joke, it's a full court press. What does that mean? Well, it's a basketball analogy where it means like there's, you're just going 110% in, whatever you want to call it, and just trying to make that happen. So for me, now I have the short film, I have a pitch deck, I have a script, I have a budget, I have a synopsis, like I have all this material that one might need, and now I'm going after people who would want to make the movie. And when I say people, people that work for production companies, producers that can help get this made, people that can finance this, all that stuff, and anything and everything is on the table. Film grants, production companies, like I said, individuals, all that stuff, right? And so now it's full court press doing that. And today I made a first round of emails to various people that I know, and it's a lot of work, right? Because you have to kind of, it would be a disservice not to personalize each email. There's a very specific reason why I'm reaching out to those people, given their history, their preferences, and our connection, and so forth, right? And so you want to highlight that. And so, the process has started. It's going to be ongoing, right? It's just like, I look at it, it's going to be probably similar to the journey of the query letters that I sent out for my novel. I'm just going to have to keep on sending and keep on trying, and there's going to be a lot of rejections along the way. The difference is the film world and my film connections, I have a lot more of them. And so, in that sense, I have kind of a leg up, whereas the book world was very new to me, and, everyone that I was emailing was a, cold email, meaning I didn't know them. Whereas here, at least, I have some sort of connections and so forth, and can lean on those. So hopefully the process is a little bit smoother in that sense, a little bit faster. It took about a year to really get the book going in terms of the query, process, and a lot of rejections. And hopefully we can expedite it in terms of this movie. But, then again, there's some movies that have taken 20 years to make. I would prefer not to have to go down that long journey, namely because there's a lot of people that I want in the movie, and 20 years from now, you know, they wouldn't work age-wise for the film, and you know, maybe by then they'll, well, hopefully by then, you know, they'll be big stars anyway, so they wouldn't need a movie like this. But nonetheless, anyway, I don't know. I don't even know what I'm ultimately getting at, but nonetheless, all that to say, I guess, you know, that the process, fingers crossed, is smooth and as rapid as it can be in this sort of business, which is very rare, but it's one of those things, you know, you hope for the best, plan for the worst. So that's kind of how I'm approaching this process, and that's why I joke, it's the full court press. You know, now anyone and everyone that I know that I think this, you know, could be good for, up their alley, I'm going to reach out to them. I'm not going to feel any shame in doing so. So that's where I'm at in the process. And yeah, I hope to keep you updated. And hopefully I'll have great news sooner rather than later. But all in all, that has been what the focus for me has been in this past week. So thank you for watching the short film and supporting me and it in the way that you continue to do. It really means a lot to me. As always, if you have any questions, whether about the stuff that I've just talked about or anything else, by all means ask away or share your thoughts, opinions, all that good stuff in the comment section, or hit me up on social media at Svitek. Thank you, and I hope to see you next time.